Well, g'day there, everybody right around the world. Thanks for joining me on this Thursday afternoon market recap. Today's date is the 1st of September 2016. What I'd like to speak to you about very briefly is, I guess, the legitimacy of this breakout through the eyes of two important types of indicators which we look at when we discuss breakouts from consolidational phases. If I quickly change to the commodity channel index and also the adaptive moving average, otherwise known as the ADX, these are showing us some very interesting types of signals. Now, although the markets are hovering up around at these all-time highs, 18,419 points on the Dow Jones Industrial Average, the ADX and the CCI are telling us, or at least giving us some signals at least which we need to pay attention to. All right, they're sort of negating a lot of the price action taking place up and around these historical highs. Let me just explain this to you. Now, what we look for when we break out of a consolidational type of phase, out of a sideways channel, is to see that CCI, that commodity channel index, break above that 100 area as it has done. So if we sort of look back to early July 2016, you can see that CCI push above 100. That is all good. What we generally want to see and expect is to see follow through and to at least see the CCI continue to hold above this 100 line indefinitely until, of course, those exponential moving averages begin to be pierced, which is the first signal, of course, that that trend is reversing. Well, since that breakout, again going back to about the 13th of July, the markets, in fact, or at least the Dow Jones Industrial Average, has largely moved sideways. We're sort of establishing what we call a double top at the moment. And what's important to note is that towards the end of August 2016, the commodity channel index is pushed back below 100. Now, that's a relatively bearish signal. It's telling us that the majority of people, at least the trend strength to the upside, isn't all that strong. Now, what complicates this, or at least makes this even more concerning, is that that ADX has turned up, and it hasn't turned up suggesting that it likes the bullish move, i.e. that breakout from about that 18,250 area. Instead, it has turned up since that pullback off that shooting star, going back to, let me just bring up the date for you, the 23rd of August. So since this particular candlestick, the ADX has turned up, which is telling us that it likes the actual pullback. Now, although the pullback, it hasn't been all that material in value, it's something to be concerned about, because as at the close on Friday, right, on the Dow Jones Industrial Average, we were up 18 points, but we were left with what we call a hangman type of candle. We have that really small body followed by that long lower wick. Now, it is showing up at that macro support area, so it's nothing to be immediately, I guess, alarmed about. But if in fact we start to push below the wick, and certainly this wick over here, well, then the ADX and that CCI is really alerting us, or at least it's a really important signal to say, look, this is going to be a false breakout. So at the moment, the jury's still out. We're not 100% certain whether this is legitimate or not, but those two particular indicators are certainly telling us be cautious up and around these levels. Now, again, just to sort of go back and have a look at today's candle, we've got a hangman on the Dow. On the S&P 500, we have what we call a dragonfly doji, very important type of candlestick. It is technically just a simple doji, but with that long lower wick, it sort of moves towards the phase, or at least the type of doji, which we call a dragonfly. And on the NASDAQ, again, very similar to the Dow Jones Industrial Average, we have another hangman type of candle. If I bring up those ADX and the CCI signals again, the ADX hasn't turned up on the NASDAQ. It has reset since, of course, moving back up into that 5227 area, and the CCI is just holding above 100. So you can see on the right hand side of my screen, 103.34. If I change to the S&P 500, this is very similar to the Dow in that the CCI has actually turned down. It's crossed back below that positive 100 area, and the ADX has turned up from the signal line since roughly around that shooting star candle, or at least that type of gravestone doji, which is the opposite type of, or at least the cousin to that of that dragonfly doji as well, which is what we've more or less set up today as at the close on Thursday. So that's really the market update. Have a great evening, everybody. I'll be back with you over the weekend. All the best. It's James signing off on behalf of Pivot Point Trading. Goodbye.